Gene Simmons is 76, and the heartbreak here cuts past the legend. For decades, we saw the demon as untouchable on a stage of fire. But behind the makeup, there is a man facing something fame cannot fix. I dug through old clips, fresh interviews, and tour notes to find what is real. He built a spectacle that rewired rock, yet the struggle now is quieter. So what is really happening to Gene Simmons at 76? Here is the truth that headlines skip and fans deserve. He co-founded Kiss, breathed fire, and roared through rock and roll all night. He also carried choices that left marks long after the amps cooled. That gap between the myth and the man is where this story lives. We will follow the rise, the chaos, the love, and the reckoning. And we will test the big claims with facts, not fear. Have you ever seen Kiss live? Tell me your wildest concert memory and who you went with. Stay with me as we peel back the makeup and meet the man behind the demon. The journey starts where the fire first hit the stage. Kiss concerts were a carnival of thunder, smoke, and pure delight. But Gene always aimed bigger than a loud night out. He once said they wanted to be the Beatles on steroids, and you could feel it. He turned a bass guitar into a weapon, a tongue into a calling card, and a stage into a war zone. The riffs hit hard, but the vision hit harder. Merch, masks, comics, pinball, the works. You did not just hear Kiss, you joined a world. Fans rallied as the Kiss Army, and now, 50 years after it began, that army still marches. That is staying power most bands only dream about. On the road, Gene moved like a general in armor. Offstage, he forged a brotherhood across rock, from road sharing with metal titans to long bonds with icons like Ozzy Osbourne. It was spectacle with strategy, theater with teeth, and it changed arenas forever. That was Kiss at its peak, the demon in command. But away from the floodlights, the stories got even wilder, and some of those stories sounded impossible until he owned them out loud. He lived through the wildest chapter of rock and did not blink. The parties never seemed to end, and neither did the rumors. Then he went on the record and set it straight. Confirmed, he claimed he had been with nearly 5,000 women. He described himself like a vulture waiting on the sidelines at those infamous nights. That is not a boast you hear and forget. It is a map of choices and a bill that always comes due. The era rewarded excess, and he took the era at its word. He chased adoration, attention, and appetite like they were the gig. And for a long time, they were. But the older I got and the more I listened, the more I heard the cost behind the grin. What happens after the rush, when the room goes quiet? When the chase ends, what is left? For Gene, the answer was not guilt, at least not the way you might expect. What he says now about those years might surprise you. Let us follow him into the mirror and see what he learned. He has been asked point blank if he regrets the chaos. His answer is calm and simple. "I really do not have regrets," he said in a recent sit-down. "Life experience is the best teacher, and you live and you learn." That is not swagger for its own sake. It is a worldview. Mistakes can humiliate you or educate you, and he picked the second door. He even echoed a pop lyric about learning as you go, like a shrug at the past and a nod to tomorrow. What I hear is a man who catalogs his missteps and then files them under lessons. Not excuses, not edits, lessons. That does not erase the damage wild choices can cause, but it frames the next step instead of reliving the last one. And it sets us up for the twist in his life I did not see coming, because the thing that changed him most was not applause or money. It was one person, then a family, and the quiet promise they asked him to keep. Here is how love rewired the demon. He once told a story that hit me in the gut. While filming a family show years back, he had an epiphany. "I am probably going to die alone," he thought. The man who could command an arena feared an empty room. So he made a different choice. He married Shannon Tweed, the partner who stood by him for decades, and he calls her his soulmate. "When you find your soulmate, everything changes," he says. "You do not want anybody else." That is not the demon talking. That is Gene. He shifted his focus to what lasts. He talks about making sure his family and his kids are taken care of, even checking his will to protect them. You can hear the pride in that steadiness. The stage god became a guardian, and the mask finally softened. The heartbreak in his story is not failure, it is how long it took to find a safe harbor, and it shaped how he faces the hardest subject of all next. He thinks about death sometimes, and he does it without drama. No doom, just paperwork and peace. In a 2022 interview, he said he checks his will so there are no cruel surprises and his family is covered. That is not a Rock quote. That is a parent quote. He also said he is okay if there is a heaven and a God, and okay if there is not. Acceptance, not panic. He looks straight at the ending most of us try to blur, and he prepares, like a touring pro who knows the loadout by heart. This is the part that quieted me as I researched. The man who set stages on fire now cares more about leaving things in order than lighting another fuse. That is growth you can feel. If you are finding value in this journey, subscribe to Golden American Legends, tap like, and share this with a friend who loves classic rock. Because the next part deals with loud headlines and the softer truth beneath them. Let us separate smoke from fire. Headlines in early 2025 sounded dire. They teased collapse, crisis, and whispered tragedy. Then the facts rolled in. He postponed 17 solo shows across spring, and his team stressed there was nothing wrong health-wise. No confirmed illness, no emergency. After Kiss said goodbye on the final tour in 2023, he kept going with his solo band. City after city, still in the game. Yes, postponements worry fans, and that is fair, but a calendar shift is not a catastrophe. What hurts, to me, is the way hype feeds on a man's age and turns routine changes into a funeral drum. That is the heartbreak I see in this moment. A legend reaches 76, and the world keeps trying to write his ending for him. He is not asking for pity. He is asking for clarity. So if not disaster, what actually defines him now? The answer is the same word that built his NASC and outlived it: resilience. He has met every twist with action instead of excuses. When the band era closed, he opened new doors. He launched an online shop with fresh merch. He set up auctions where fans could collect one-of-a-kind pieces from his vault. He even leaned into playful empire building, like that Kiss-themed mini-golf in Las Vegas. It is part hustle, part heritage. He turns endings into engines. And he keeps preaching the same lesson. If you do not learn from your mistakes, that is on you. It is blunt, but it is honest. You can hate the bravado, but you cannot deny the focus. He understood his legacy is not a museum. It is a living brand, and it pays for the life he promised his family. For me, that is why he endures. Not because he never fell, because he always stood back up. Which brings us back to the word that kicked off this story and needs a final look now. We chased the demon across decades and found the man who built him. The heartbreak at 76 is not a secret illness or a destroyed life. It is the ache of time, the end of a road, and the noise that tries to drown out a quiet kind of courage. Gene Simmons remains unforgettable, not for being flawless, but for getting back up. He learned, he chose love, he planned for his family, and he keeps moving. So let us give credit where it is due. Reality beats the scary headline. If you made it this far, thank you for watching, and please subscribe to Golden American Legends for more stories that keep classic legends alive and relevant. Drop a like and share this with the friend who still hums rock and roll all night. Now I want to hear from you. Is Gene Simmons' story a true tragedy, or is it sensational hype, and why? I will be reading your thoughts. Thanks for watching, and explore more deep dives on our channel next. I will see you in the next one.